My son Logan offered to check my car for me, said the brakes were shot, that it was too dangerous for me to be on the road, that I could get hurt. The next morning, I found a GPS tracker hidden under my car. Instead of confronting him, I took it straight to the police. 2 hours later, I got a phone call that shattered everything I thought I knew. Turns out my sedan wasn't just being tracked, it was being used. I'm grateful you're here with me. Before we go further, drop a comment below. Where are you listening from, right now? What time is it where you are? Your presence means everything. Let me back up to where this really started that Sunday afternoon in late February, when Logan and his wife, Juliana, came over for lunch. I'd spent the morning cooking meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans. The kind of meal Logan used to demolish when he was a kid. Now he just picked at his plate, while Juliana sat across from me in her immaculate cream blazer, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. William, she began, not even waiting for dessert. She never called me Dad. Logan and I have been looking at some wonderful assisted living communities outside the city. They have gardens, 24-hour care activities. I don't need 24-hour care. I cut in, keeping my voice level. I'm doing just fine. But this house, she pressed her gaze, sweeping the dining room like she was cataloging everything that needed replacing. All these stairs, the drafts. At your age, living alone is just irresponsible, I offered. She had the decency to look away. Logan cleared his throat. Dad, we're just worried about you, especially with the car. He set down his fork, finally meeting my eyes. You've been getting careless. I noticed a scratch on the bumper last week, and when you pulled up today, I heard something off with the engine. I've been driving for 40 years, taught driver's ed as a side job back in the 80s. I knew every sound that sedan made, felt every vibration through the steering wheel like a heartbeat. The engine's fine, Logan. Please just let me take a look, for my peace of mind. Something in his tone made me nod. Not concerned, I'd heard that before. This was different. Urgent. Almost anxious. After lunch, Logan went out to the garage. I watched through the kitchen window as he rolled up the sleeves of his expensive shirt and crawled under the car. He stayed down there for 30 minutes. Too long for a simple brake check. Juliana stood on the porch scrolling through her phone, not even glancing at her husband. When Logan finally emerged, his face was grim. Dad, the brake lines are critically worn. It's dangerous. I can't let you drive this until I get it checked out properly. His hands were shaking as he wiped them with a rag. Promise me you won't take it out. I looked at those trembling hands, at the grease stains, at the way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. All right, I said slowly. I'll wait. They left soon, after Juliana's perfume lingering in the house, long after their car disappeared down the street. I stood in my living room, listening to the silence, feeling something coil tight in my chest. I'm a scientist. Was a science teacher for 30 years. I taught kids about observation, about questioning, about the scientific method. And right then, everything in me was screaming that something didn't add up. Logan's urgency, Juliana's cold assessment of my house, those shaking hands. The brakes on my car were fine. I'd just had them serviced 2 months ago. So why was my son lying to me? Sleep didn't come that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the old house settle around me. Every creak sounded louder than usual. Around midnight I gave up, threw on my robe, and grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer. If Logan was lying about the brakes, I needed to know why. The garage was cold, the kind of damp February cold that seeps into your bones. I got down on the concrete floor, my knees protesting, and aimed the flashlight under the chassis. The brake lines ran clean and dry. No cracks, no leaks, no worn spots. I traced them with my fingers, checking every connection point. They looked exactly like they had 2 months ago when Carl at the garage had inspected them. Logan had lied. I was about to slide back out when the flashlight beam caught something that didn't belong. Deep in the rear undercarriage, tucked inside the bumper, a small black box, no bigger than a matchbox. A tiny green diode blinked slowly on its side. A GPS tracker. I pulled it free. The magnets released with a soft click. The thing sat in my palm surprisingly heavy, that green light pulsing like a mechanical heartbeat. Professional grade by the look of it. My son was tracking me. I sat there on that garage floor, knees aching, and felt something shift inside my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something colder, more calculated. Part of me wanted to call Logan right then, demand an explanation. But 30 years of teaching teenagers had taught me something. Confront someone mid-lie, and they double down. They get better at lying. No, I needed the truth first, not his version of it. I stood up, brushed off my robe, and took the tracker inside. found an envelope in my desk and sealed it. Then I sat at the kitchen table until dawn broke gray over Richmond, turning that envelope over in my hands. By 8 in the morning, I'd made my decision. I didn't take the car Logan had forbidden it, after all. I walked the 6 blocks to the Richmond Police Department, Precinct 3, the envelope in my coat pocket. The desk sergeant looked up when I entered. Young guy, maybe early 40s, with kind eyes that reminded me of former students. "Help you, sir. I need to speak with someone about something I found." I placed the envelope on the counter. "It's probably nothing, but I'd like it checked out." "Your name?" "William Crawford." He opened the envelope. His expression shifted from casual interest to something sharper. "Mr. Crawford, where did you find this?" "Under my car, last night. And you don't know who put it there." I met his eyes. "I have suspicions, but I'd rather have facts." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "I'm Sergeant Samuel Wright. Let me run the serial number on this. Might take a few hours. Can I reach you at—" "Home phone." I wrote it down on the pad he slid across the counter. "I'll call you as soon as I know something, Mr. Crawford." I walked back home slowly, the morning sun warming the February chill. The envelope in my pocket felt lighter now, but my chest felt heavier. I'd just handed evidence about my own son to the police. 2 hours. Samuel had said it would take 2 hours. I made coffee, sat in my kitchen, stared at the phone, and waited. The phone rang at just after 10 o'clock. I'd been sitting there so long my coffee had gone cold. The sound cut through the kitchen like a knife. I picked up on the second ring. "Mr. Crawford, this is Sergeant Wright." His voice had changed. Gone was the casual warmth from this morning. This was official, almost careful. "Sergeant, what did you find—" A pause. I heard papers rustling. "The device you brought in, it's not registered to any private citizen. It's a cloned professional tracking unit. The kind used by private investigators or—" He stopped. "Mr. Crawford, I need to ask you something. Where do you keep your car at night?" "In my garage, always." "And you're certain it stays there?" My hand tightened on the receiver. "I'm asleep at night, Sergeant. But yes, the garage door's always closed when I wake up." More rustling, a longer pause. "Mr. Crawford, we ran the movement history on that tracker. Your vehicle was recorded at the Richmond Pharmaceutical Distribution Center on 3 separate occasions over the past 10 days. 2:50 a.m., 3:15 a.m., 3:45 a.m. The kitchen tilted. I gripped the counter. "That's impossible. I don't even know where that is." "It's the warehouse district on North Side. And here's the problem: during those exact time windows the facility reported thefts. Pharmaceutical precursors. Chemical compounds used to manufacture controlled medications. High-value items. Federal jurisdiction." My throat went dry. "Federal. FBI and DEA are involved, Mr. Crawford. This isn't shoplifting. Someone's been stealing materials that could be used to produce illegal drugs. The kind of theft that carries 15 to 20 years in a federal prison." The room spun. I sank into my kitchen chair. "And my car—" "Your car was there. All 3 times. Which means we're preparing to seize it as evidence. I'm sorry, but—" "Sergeant." My voice came out steady, though everything inside me was collapsing. "I'm a 67-year-old retired science teacher. I haven't driven at 3 in the morning in 30 years. I'm in bed by 10. I believe you, Mr. Crawford, but the evidence—" "My son works there." The words fell out of me like stones. "Logan, he's an operations supervisor at that facility. Has been for 8 years. The silence on the line stretched so long, I thought we'd been disconnected. "Mr. Crawford, oh, he has keys to my garage. He took them about 3 months ago. Said he'd make copies in case of emergency." My hand was shaking now. "He was checking my brakes yesterday. Told me they were dangerous. Told me not to drive." "Jesus." Samuel's professional tone cracked. "He wasn't checking your brakes." "No." The truth settled over me like ice water. He was making sure the car was clean. Making sure there was no evidence left inside. "Mr. Crawford, listen to me. Don't confront him. Don't call him. This is now a federal investigation, and if your son is involved, if du bist—" I laughed, and it came out bitter. "Sergeant, my son put a tracker on my car. He's using it while I sleep, and when the FBI comes knocking, they're not going to find him. They're going to find an old man whose vehicle was at the scene." Another long pause. "Let me make some calls. Stay by the phone." He hung up. I sat there in my kitchen holding the dead receiver, staring at nothing. My son wasn't trying to protect me. He was trying to destroy me. I had one number memorized that could help. James Caldwell answered on the 3rd ring. "William, everything okay?" "James, I need you. Now. It's about Logan." 20 minutes later, my old friend stood in my living room. He'd put on weight since retiring from the force 5 years ago, but his eyes were still sharp, cop eyes. I told him everything: the tracker, Samuel's call, the pharmaceutical warehouse, Logan's access. James sat down heavily on my couch. Christ, William, pharmaceutical precursors. That's not just theft. DEA treats those compounds like they're making bombs. One wrong sale and you've got fentanyl flooding the streets. He rubbed his face. Your boy's looking at hard federal time if they catch him. They're going to catch me instead. I handed him the paper where I'd written the timeline. Look at the dates. Every theft happened while I was asleep. My car. My garage. When the FBI shows up, whose door do you think they'll knock on first? James studied the paper, his jaw tightening. You need to prove you're a victim, not an accomplice. And you need to do it before they seize that car and find whatever trace evidence Logan left behind. How long do I have? Samuel can stall the warrant, maybe 48 hours. After that, he shook his head. Federal prosecutors don't play games, William. You'll be arrested before you can say lawyer. My chest tightened. So what do I do? James stood up, started pacing. That old investigator energy coming back. We catch him, red-handed, on camera. We make it impossible for anyone to claim you knew what was happening. How? Security camera in your garage, hidden, streaming to a tablet so we have real-time evidence. And he stopped pacing. We need a way to trap him inside if things go sideways. Can't have him running before we get what we need. The garage door has a remote opener. Not good enough. Too slow. We need electronic locks. Something you can trigger instantly. He pulled out his phone. I know a guy, Carl Peterson. He's been doing security installations since he left the police garage. Owes me a favor. Carl arrived at my house by 4 that afternoon. Quiet man, late 50s, with hands that moved like a surgeon's. He barely said 10 words while he worked. First the camera. Tiny lens no bigger than a shirt button mounted between paint cans on my garage shelf. The angle captured the driver's side door and the entire interior through the windshield. Wireless feed, Carl muttered, showing me the tablet. Streams direct. Motion-activated recording. Nobody'll spot this unless they know where to look. Then the locks. He installed electromagnetic bolts on the garage door tracks, invisible from inside, controlled by a small remote he handed to me. Press this button, the door closes and locks. Can't be opened from inside without cutting power to the whole house. He demonstrated, and I heard the heavy thunk of metal engaging. Even then it'll take 10 minutes minimum. James tested it twice, nodded approval. By 6, they were gone. The garage looked exactly as it had this morning, but now every movement inside would be recorded. Every word would be captured. And if I needed to, I could seal that room tighter than a vault. I sat in my kitchen with the tablet watching the empty garage on the screen. The camera's night vision cast everything in shades of gray. 48 hours. That's all James could buy me. I needed Logan to use my car again, and I needed him to incriminate himself while he did it. The trap was set. Now I just needed bait. I made the call that evening, keeping my voice soft, tired. Logan, it's Dad. I've been thinking about what you said. About the car. I let a practiced tremor slip in. You were right. I tried sitting in it today just to feel the brake pedal, and my hands started shaking. I'm getting old, son. Too old to be stubborn. Relief rushed into his voice. Dad, that's really smart. I'm proud of you for admitting that. I'll leave the keys in the mailbox. Take it whenever you need to get it looked at. I won't touch it. Perfect. I'll handle everything. When we hung up, I sat there sick. That eagerness, like I'd handed him exactly what he'd been waiting for. Tuesday morning, I walked to Carol's bakery on Grove Avenue. Carol had been selling me sourdough for 15 years. William? The usual, she asked, already reaching for the knife. Yes. And Carol, I lowered my voice like sharing a harmless secret. If you see my car out late at night this week, don't worry. Logan's pulling double shifts at that pharmaceutical warehouse, borrowing it for deliveries. Poor kid's exhausted. Her eyes brightened with neighborhood gossip interest. Bless his heart. You raised him right? By noon, I'd said the same thing to Philip at the pharmacy. By evening, half the block would know Logan Crawford was using his father's car for work. A public alibi. Documented. Untouchable. Now I just had to wait. That night I sat in my dark kitchen tablet glowing. The garage camera showed nothing except shadows around my empty sedan. At 2:17 a.m. the motion alert triggered. The garage door opened manually. Logan had the spare remote. 2 figures slipped inside. Logan in dark clothes, a duffel over his shoulder. Behind him, Juliana dressed like someone about to rob a bank. I turned up the volume. Sure, the old man's asleep. Juliana's voice came through tinny but sharp. Dead asleep, Logan said. Probably took his pills hours ago. He opened the trunk and started loading the duffel. Juliana circled the car. God, this thing reeks. How long do we have to use it? Until we're done. A week, maybe two. She laughed cold and cruel. You really think he suspects anything the old fool handed you the keys? Don't call him that. Why not? That's exactly what he is. A perfect mule, too stupid to question anything. We use his car, his garage, his clean record, and he just thanks you for caring about his safety. This is almost too easy. Logan slammed the trunk. Let's go. We've got a schedule. They drove off. I sat frozen, their words echoing stupid mule too trusting. At 4:40 a.m. they returned. The camera caught Logan wiping the steering wheel clean before they slipped out again. When they were gone, I waited 10 minutes, then went to the garage. The trunk smelled chemical sharp. I opened the spare tire well. Inside were thick bundles of $20 bills rubber banded. A lot of money. But buried beneath the cash was a glossy airline ticket. I lifted it into the flashlight beam. One passenger, one way to Dubai. Departure tomorrow morning. Juliana Monroe, not Logan. I kept searching and found a torn invoice behind the back seat. Biopharm Logistics Consignment 6294. Pharmaceutical precursor compounds. At 5 a.m., standing in my own garage, I held evidence of 3 crimes: theft, conspiracy, betrayal. My son was stealing, his wife was preparing to disappear, and I was the scapegoat. I waited until noon to make the call. Let him think I'd spent the morning being a harmless old man. Logan, hi. It's Dad. Listen, I've been thinking about the car. If it's really that dangerous, I shouldn't keep it around. I kept my tone light conversational. I called the Richmond Police Foundation this morning. They have a vehicle donation program. They use old cars for cadet training. I'm driving it down to the precinct tomorrow at 9 a.m. Seems like the right thing to do. Silence. Then, what gnome Dad, wait. It's already arranged. They're expecting me at... Well, I can't just let it sit in my garage forever. Let me come over tonight, right now. I'll check everything one more time. Maybe I can fix it. Just don't drive it. Please. I let him hear my hesitation. Tonight? Yes. I'll come after work. Around 8. I'll bring my tools. Just promise me you won't take it anywhere. All right, son, if it means that much to you. When I hung up, my hands were steady, but my heart wasn't. James arrived at 6 with 3 men in tactical gear. No marked vehicles. They parked 2 blocks away and came through my back gate. You sure about this? James asked, watching his team check their equipment. He'll come. He has to. I showed him the airline ticket, the invoice. His wife's flying out tomorrow morning. If that car makes it to the police, everything falls apart. James's jaw tightened. Then we'll be ready. They positioned themselves in my storage room, the one that connected to the garage through a door most people forgot existed. I could hear them checking radios, adjusting night vision gear. Professional, silent. James handed me the remote. You remember how this works. Press the button. Door closes and locks. Don't press it until they're both inside. We need them contained. He gripped my shoulder. And William, we'll be 10 feet away. Anything goes wrong, we come through that door. I know. You're not alone in this. But when they sealed themselves in that storage room and the house went quiet, I'd never felt more alone. I sat in my dark kitchen, the tablet glowing softly on the table. The remote control felt heavy in my pocket. On screen, the garage was empty waiting. My sedan sat there like a stage before the curtain rises. 9 p.m. became 10. 10 became 11. I thought about Logan as a boy, teaching him to ride a bike in this same driveway, helping him with chemistry homework at this same kitchen table. The pride in his eyes when he got that job at the warehouse, the job I'd helped him get through old connections. Had I done this, made him think he could take shortcuts, that lying to his father was acceptable? Or had I simply failed to see who he'd become? Midnight passed. My coffee had gone cold hours ago. I didn't move, didn't turn on a light, just sat there watching that screen, the remote in my hand. At 12:17 a.m. I heard it, the soft scrape of metal on metal, a key sliding into the lock on my back door, the door that led from the kitchen to the rear porch. They'd come. The back door opened slowly. Footsteps crossed my kitchen, 2 sets careful and quiet, moving through my house like they owned it. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just watched the tablet as the garage motion sensor triggered. The overhead lights stayed off. They were using flashlights. Smart. Logan appeared first on the grainy feed, dressed in dark clothes and work gloves. Behind him came Juliana, also gloved, carrying what looked like a plastic bottle. Logan went straight to the trunk and opened it with the spare key I'd supposedly left in the mailbox. He pulled out the bundled cash and shoved it into a backpack. How much? Juliana's voice came through low tense. All of it. Maybe 40,000, he said. We can't leave any. Good, because I'm not coming back here. She uncapped the bottle. The microphone picked up the sharp burn of bleach fumes. She poured it over the back seat and floor mats. Every surface. No DNA, no prints, nothing. Jesus, that's strong? The garage will reek. Let it. She removed several small glass vials from her jacket and set them behind an old tire. These stay. Logan froze. What are those? Insurance. Samples from the last shipment. When the cops search tomorrow, they'll find these the leftover cash, and dear old Dad with his hands clean, but his garage full of evidence. She smiled. Anonymous tip at 8. Check William Crawford's garage. By 9, he's in handcuffs. But Logan stared. That'll destroy him. That's the point, baby. He's our exit strategy. The cops get their arrest. We get our freedom. She kissed his cheek. You said you wanted out. This is out. My fingers tightened around the remote. I didn't think he's still my... Your what? Your father. She laughed, the same cruel sound from the earlier recording. He's a resource. A useful idiot. And tomorrow he's going to be very useful by going to prison instead of us. I pressed the button. The garage door motor groaned loudly. Logan and Juliana spun as the door descended faster than they expected, slamming against the concrete. Logan bolted to the control panel and hit the button. Nothing. What the hell? He tried again. Still nothing. It's locked, I said. I flipped on the hallway light and stepped into the garage. They froze under the sudden blaze of brightness. Hello, Logan. Juliana. Dad Logan went pale. What are you doing up? You're supposed to be? Asleep. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the folded paper, and walked toward them. Like I was all those other nights you borrowed my car. I dropped the airline ticket at his feet. Logan looked down. I watched the confusion shift to realization. Juliana. His voice cracked. Goodbye. Tomorrow morning. She didn't answer, just stared at me with pure hatred. One ticket, I said softly. One passenger. One way. While you were framing me, your wife was planning to leave you. That's Logan snatched the ticket. Juliana, what is this? Change of plans, she snapped. I was going to tell you. When at the airport. You were going to leave me here. Let me take the fall alone. Don't be stupid. You were always taking the fall. You panic. You're weak. I needed someone who wouldn't crack, and that's not you. She turned to me. And you meddling old bastard. She lunged. Logan grabbed her arm and yanked her back. Don't touch him. The storage room door exploded open. Richmond police hands where I can see them. Now. James entered, first weapon drawn, his team fanning out with red laser sights, pinning both of them. On the ground, face down now. Logan dropped immediately. Juliana tried to run for the locked door, making it 3 steps before 2 officers tackled her. Within seconds, they were cuffed on the concrete. Juliana screamed, He made me do it. He threatened me. Ask him about gambling debts. Shut up. Logan thrashed against the officer holding him. This was your plan. All of it, the theft, the tracker using Dad's car. Prove it, you idiot. James stepped between them, disgusted. Then he looked at me. You okay? I nodded, unable to speak. Logan stopped struggling. He turned his head toward me, cheek pressed to the floor, tears streaming. Daddy, please. I'm your son. Don't let them take me. I made mistakes, but I'm still your boy. Please. That word daddy. He hadn't called me that since he was 8. My chest felt like it was caving in. The garage fell silent after they left. I stared at the space where my son had been lying moments earlier. Scuff marks streaked the concrete where they'd dragged him out. The bleach burned my nostrils. My legs gave out. I sat heavily on my workbench, hands shaking. Free. I'd said I was free, but I didn't feel free. I felt hollow. The storage room door opened. James stepped out, holstering his weapon. He looked older than he had an hour ago. William, he said, placing a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing. Did I... My voice sounded foreign. I just sent my son to federal prison. Your son was ready to send you there. That insurance policy, he took it out 3 days ago. He was already planning what to do if you got in the way. 3 days, while I'd cooked him meatloaf. What happens now? Evidence team's on the way. They'll process everything, the samples, the cash residue, the bleach. It all backs your story. He paused. You'll give a formal statement in the morning. Around 8. Samuel will handle it. And Logan, Juliana, federal holding. FBI and DEA take it from here. With the footage, the evidence, and that insurance policy, they're looking at 15 to 20 years. Maybe more if intent to harm you sticks. 20 years. Logan would be nearly 60. James pulled a small notebook from a clear evidence bag. We found this in Juliana's purse. Dates, times, amounts. Every theft, every sale. Even notes about camera outages. Why keep that? Insurance. Against Logan, probably. If he tried cutting her out, she had proof he was the inside man. She used him from the start. My son had been a fool, but he'd been my fool. Can I ask something? James said quietly. When he was begging, calling you, Daddy, did you waver? For 1 second. I saw him at 8 years old, crying over a scraped knee. I looked at my hands. Then I remembered the insurance policy. The boy I raised died long ago. I just didn't want to see it. You gave him every chance, James said. He chose this. I know. Knowing didn't make it hurt less. The evidence team arrived at 2 AM3 technicians in white suits, photographing everything, collecting vials, sampling bleach stains. I watched from the kitchen doorway, drinking cold coffee. By 4, they were done. James walked them out, then returned. You should try to sleep. I can't. Then sit, rest. I'll stay until sunrise. He did. We barely spoke, just the quiet presence of an old friend. Dawn broke gray through the kitchen window. At 8 a.m., James drove me to the precinct. Samuel Wright met us at the door, his expression grave. Mr. Crawford, I'm sorry. Don't be. You helped me catch them. In the interview room, I told everything, the tracker, the surveillance, the calls, the trap. It was all recorded and signed. 3 hours later, I stepped into cold winter sunlight. James waited by his car. Need a ride? I'll walk. The car will stay in evidence for a while, he said. But when you get it back, maybe it's time to see the country. Maybe it was. I walked home. The garage door was still open from the evidence team. I closed it, went inside, and finally let myself feel everything. I sat at the kitchen table and cried for my son, for who he might have been, for the future we'd lost. And when the tears stopped, I made a promise. I would survive, I would heal, and I would live. 6 months later, spring finally reached Richmond. The call from the police garage came on a Tuesday. My car was ready. Carl had spent weeks restoring it new upholstery, a deep clean, even fresh wax. When I picked it up, it looked better than it had in years. Wanted to erase everything Carl said, handing me the keys. Give you a clean start. The trial had ended 3 weeks earlier. I hadn't attended. I didn't need to see Logan's face when the judge read the sentence. 18 years for him, 20 for Juliana. James called with the news. I thanked him and hung up. 18 years. Logan would be 56 when he got out. If I was alive, I'd be 85. The week after the verdict, I went through my house. I took down the photos Logan as a baby at graduation at his wedding. I couldn't throw them away. Instead, I packed them into a box and carried it to the attic. Memory shouldn't be erased, but it doesn't have to stay on display. That Friday morning, I packed a small bag, locked my front door, and stood for a moment, looking at the house I'd lived in for 40 years. Then I got in my car and drove. I-64 stretched ahead, leading east toward the coast. Warm sunlight filled the windshield. I had no schedule, no one waiting. For the first time in 6 months, that felt like freedom, not loneliness. 2 hours later, I stopped at a rest area. A small diner at the Crossroads Cafe stood by the highway. I went in for coffee. Inside, a young waitress was struggling. Early 20s, juggling plates, apologizing to impatient customers. Her name tag read Olivia. I sat at the counter. Up close, she looked exhausted, the same look I'd seen 100 times in students working their way through school. Coffee, please. Black. Right away, she said, hands shaking as she poured. I watched her a while. Saw myself 40 years ago, teaching all day, grading all night, raising Logan alone after Lillian died. Saw every kid who had ever tried too hard to get things right. Before leaving, I placed a 50 under my cup and wrote on a napkin, "You're doing fine. One piece of advice from an old teacher, check your mirrors. Dangerous things hide in blind spots." I was halfway to my car when she called after me, "Sir, this is too much." I turned and smiled. "It's exactly right. Keep going. You'll make it." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." I drove on. Virginia Beach was an hour away. 40 years I'd spent teaching chemistry, teaching about reactions, bonds, breaking points. My son had broken ours, but I hadn't broken. The sky turned ocean blue. I rolled down the window, letting the salt air in. For 6 months I'd wondered if I'd made the right choice. If a better father would have found another way, loved better, seen more. But now with the horizon opening before me, I finally understood. Some bonds can't be saved. Some people choose paths that pull them beyond reach. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let them go. The ocean appeared a thin blue line touching the sky. I pressed the accelerator and drove toward it. Alone, yes, but alive. And that was enough. If you're listening to this Grandpa Stories, I want you to hear me clearly. Don't be like me. Don't wait until your life is nearly destroyed to see the truth right in front of you. I spent years making excuses for Logan, ignoring the signs, choosing blindness over painful reality. Love shouldn't mean closing your eyes. It should mean opening them wider. This true story taught me something I wish I'd learned sooner: trust but verify. Even with family. Especially with family. Check your mirrors not just in your car, but in your life. Watch for the people who move in your blind spots, who use your love as a weapon, who mistake your kindness for weakness. I thank God I survived to tell this story. Not everyone gets that chance. The hardest lesson. Sometimes saving yourself means letting go of the people you love most. Sometimes the bravest thing a father can do is refuse to be his son's victim. That's the truth this Grandpa Stories carries. Love has limits, and those limits keep you alive. This true story isn't just mine, it's a warning. Pay attention to the small lies. Question the convenient explanations. And never ever hand someone the keys to destroy you, even if they're your own blood. If this true story moved you, if it made you think about your own relationships, I need to hear from you. Drop a comment below telling me, would you have done what I did? Could you turn in your own child to save yourself? Hit that subscribe button so you never miss these Grandpa Stories that matter. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, check your mirrors, always.